The blood was still dripping, not from a body, from the knife buried deep inside Chairman Kang Min-Jae's polished desk. 20 senior officers of the Black Dragon Syndicate stood frozen inside the Seoul headquarters, their eyes locked on the crimson blade. No one dared move. No one dared speak. Beneath the knife rested a black envelope sealed with dark wax. Min-Jae calmly stepped forward. At 42, he had ruled Korea's most feared syndicate for 12 years without ever showing fear. He pulled the envelope free and unfolded the note inside. Only one sentence was written. "Congratulations, you finally discovered the traitor." The room held its breath. Instead of anger, a faint smile appeared on Min-Jae's face. None of the officers understood why. 4 days earlier, he had secretly staged his own resignation as chairman. It was never meant to be permanent. The announcement was bait, designed to expose anyone waiting for his throne. The blood-stained knife proved someone had taken it. But Min-Jae's victory was short-lived. The traitor had left the message intentionally. They wanted him to know the game had begun. And before dawn broke over Seoul, someone inside the Black Dragon Syndicate would make their first move against the only man capable of destroying them forever. 4 days earlier, rain lashed against the glass walls of the Black Dragon Syndicate headquarters as 20 senior officers gathered around the conference table. Their conversation stopped the moment Chairman Kang Min-Jae entered. Every man bowed without being told. Respect had always been stronger than fear under his leadership. Min-Jae remained standing. His sharp eyes swept across the room before he removed the silver dragon ring from his finger, the symbol of absolute authority within the syndicate. "I've made my decision," he said calmly. "I'm stepping down as chairman." The announcement struck the room like thunder. Captain Choi Dae-sung immediately protested. "Chairman, the syndicate cannot survive without you." Others quickly agreed, their voices filled with disbelief. Min-Jae raised one hand, restoring silence. "My decision is final. Until a successor is chosen, the council will oversee all operations." As shock spread across the room, Min-Jae quietly observed every face. Fear, confusion, disappointment. Then he saw it. For less than a second, Lee Hyun-woo allowed himself the smallest smile before hiding it behind a respectful bow. Min-Jae pretended not to notice. The meeting ended minutes later, and the officers slowly left the room. When the doors finally closed, only Han Sung-ho remained. He looked at Min-Jae. "You saw something, didn't you?" Min-Jae slipped the dragon ring back onto his finger. "The trap is set." 4 hours later, Kang Min-Jae entered a forgotten apartment overlooking the Han River, accompanied only by Han Sung-ho. The modest hideout contained encrypted phones, surveillance monitors, city maps, and enough supplies to disappear for weeks. No officer knew it existed. Sung-ho studied the equipment. "You planned this long before today." "I began preparing 6 months ago," Min-Jae replied. He activated hidden cameras installed throughout syndicate headquarters during recent renovations. Hallways, garages, offices, and meeting rooms appeared across multiple screens. Every important corner was visible. "For the next few days," Min-Jae said, "everyone believes I surrendered power. That's when ambition becomes careless." Hours passed without unusual activity. Near midnight, Captain Kim Woo-jin quietly entered the financial office alone. He checked the hallway, unlocked a concealed wall safe, placed a small brown envelope inside, then left without removing anything. Sung-ho frowned. "What does it mean?" Min-Jae replayed the recording. "It means someone expects another visitor." He marked the exact time inside a notebook. "If the envelope disappears, we'll know someone trusted the safe more than secrecy." Moments later, another camera detected movement outside the office door. Someone wearing black gloves reached for the handle. The game had truly begun. Before dawn came, minutes later, the gloved stranger slipped inside the financial office without making a sound. The figure paused beside the doorway, carefully listening, before approaching the hidden safe behind the framed painting. Instead of opening it immediately, the stranger produced a small electronic device and connected it to the keypad. Tiny lights flashed across the screen as encrypted numbers rolled endlessly. Han Sung-ho watched the monitor in disbelief. "That equipment isn't ordinary," he whispered. Min-Jae nodded. Whoever trained this person had professional intelligence experience. 30 seconds later, the safe unlocked with a soft click. The stranger removed the brown envelope, held it beneath a miniature ultraviolet light, then quietly returned it without unfolding the paper. Every movement appeared rehearsed, leaving nothing disturbed. Before leaving, the figure slowly turned toward the hidden camera mounted above the office door. For 3 silent seconds, the stranger stared directly into the lens, then tapped 2 fingers against the brim of a black cap before disappearing. Sung-ho looked uneasy. They know we're watching. Min-Jae remained calm. No, they want us watching. An encrypted message suddenly appeared across every surveillance monitor. Stop watching the headquarters. Start watching your friends instead. Han Sung-ho immediately disconnected the surveillance network, but the encrypted message remained frozen across every screen. Someone had penetrated a system known only to the chairman. That meant the enemy possessed information impossible to obtain from outside the syndicate. Min-Jae quietly erased the message, then opened a leather notebook containing confidential records on every senior officer. Years of handwritten observations filled its pages. Strengths, weaknesses, ambitions. He studied each profile without speaking. Finally, his phone vibrated. The caller was Captain Choi Dae-sung. Min-Jae answered without revealing his location. Chairman, Dae-sung whispered. Someone broke into Warehouse 7. Min-Jae's expression hardened. Was anything stolen? No, Dae-sung replied. But they searched the old accounting archive and left a white chrysanthemum on the floor. Sung-ho's face immediately changed. Within Korea's underworld, the flower belonged to a legendary contract killer, known only as the Gardener, a ghost believed dead for nearly 10 years. Min-Jae slowly closed the notebook. Touch nothing. We're coming. As the call ended, he slipped his pistol beneath his jacket. If the Gardener had returned, this conspiracy reached far beyond a simple struggle for syndicate leadership. Rain poured across Seoul as Kang Min-Jae and Han Sung-ho arrived outside the abandoned Warehouse 7 near the Han River, once a major Black Dragon Syndicate shipping hub. The building now stood silent behind rusted gates and broken floodlights. No guards were posted. No vehicles waited nearby. The emptiness itself felt suspicious. Min-Jae signaled for silence before slipping through a half-open side entrance. Inside, rows of abandoned containers stretched into darkness beneath cracked skylights. Every sound echoed through the enormous warehouse. Suddenly, a metallic clang rang from the far end of the building. Sung-ho instinctively reached for his pistol. Someone wants us to follow, he whispered. Instead of moving toward the noise, Min-Jae climbed a steel staircase leading to an overhead walkway. From above, he spotted a hooded figure crossing the warehouse floor. The stranger carried a white chrysanthemum and a black envelope. Reaching the center of the warehouse, the figure carefully placed both items onto a wooden crate before disappearing through a rear exit without looking back. Min-Jae descended cautiously. He picked up the envelope and unfolded the single photograph inside. It showed his secret apartment taken only hours earlier. Across the image, 6 handwritten words chilled him instantly. A king can hide, but never disappear. A sharp beeping sound echoed beneath the wooden crate. Min-Jae's instincts took over. Move! He shoved Han Sung-ho behind a stack of steel containers as both men dove for cover. A deafening explosion ripped through the warehouse, sending splintered wood and twisted metal across the concrete floor. Smoke filled the air while shattered glass rained from the skylights above. When the dust settled, Min-Jae slowly stood, a thin line of blood running down his forehead. They didn't want us dead, he said. Sung-ho looked confused. How can you know? If they did, the bomb would have exploded the moment I opened the envelope. Before Sung-ho could answer, slow applause echoed from the steel walkway overhead. A hooded figure stood motionless in the shadows. Your reputation wasn't exaggerated, Chairman Kang. Min-Jae raised his pistol. Who are you? The stranger chuckled softly. Just someone who knows how you became chairman. The warehouse lights suddenly went dark. Gunshots exploded through the darkness, striking the steel railings instead of their bodies. Retreat, Min-Jae ordered. They escaped into the pouring rain as the shooting stopped instantly. When they searched the warehouse minutes later, the stranger had vanished. Only one weathered cassette tape remained. Its handwritten label read, "The Truth About 12 Years Ago." A cold silence filled the apartment as Kang Min-Jae placed the weathered cassette into an old player. Han Seung-ho stood beside him, watching carefully. Static crackled through the speaker before a familiar voice emerged. "Kang Min-Jae, if you're hearing this, I'm already dead." Min-Jae froze. The voice belonged to former chairman Kang Do-hyun, officially killed during the Syndicate Civil War 12 years earlier. The recording continued. "I trusted the wrong man. The Black Dragon Syndicate doesn't have one enemy. It has an infection growing within." Suddenly, the tape stopped. Min-Jae ejected it and discovered the remaining magnetic ribbon had been sliced away. "Someone removed the ending," Seung-ho said. Before Min-Jae could answer, every light inside the apartment went dark. Only the city lights outside remained. 3 slow knocks echoed from the hallway. Nobody moved. A calm voice spoke through the door. "Chairman, I came to keep you alive, not kill you." Min-Jae raised his pistol. "Prove it." Something slid beneath the door. It was an old brass key attached to a faded wooden tag marked Archive Room B17. The stranger spoke again. "That key unlocks the truth about your predecessor. Come alone at sunrise to Incheon. Then decide whom trust." At sunrise, Kang Min-Jae and Han Seung-ho crossed the bridge into Incheon, following deserted coastal roads toward the Syndicate's abandoned headquarters. Once the birthplace of the Black Dragon Syndicate, the compound now stood forgotten behind rusted gates and crumbling walls. Min-Jae unlocked a steel door marked B17 using the brass key. The heavy lock clicked open, revealing a dusty underground archive untouched for years. Filing cabinets lined the room, but only one drawer remained open. Inside rested a single red folder labeled Operation Black Crown. As Min-Jae reached for it, an elderly man stepped from the shadows wearing an outdated black suit and a silver dragon pin. A long scar crossed his left cheek. He bowed respectfully. "Chairman Kang, don't open that file yet." Seung-ho immediately aimed his pistol. "Who are you?" The old man never flinched. "My name is Park Jin-tae. I served Chairman Kang Do-hyun for 30 years. Min-Jae studied him carefully. Only a handful of veterans knew the archive existed. "Why should I believe you?" Park reached inside his coat and produced half of a torn cassette tape. "Because I possess the recording someone tried desperately to keep from reaching you." Park Jin-tae carefully fitted his torn cassette piece into the damaged tape Min-Jae carried. The repaired recording crackled before Chairman Kang Do-hyun's voice returned. "If this message survives, remember one thing. I was never betrayed by rivals. I was betrayed by someone wearing our dragon." The room fell silent. Operation Black Crown wasn't created to expand the syndicate, the recording continued. It was designed to expose an alliance between corrupt officials, businessmen, and one senior captain inside Black Dragon. The tape ended forever. Min-Jae slowly looked toward Park. "Who was the captain?" Park lowered his eyes. "I never learned his name." Chairman Do-hyun hid it inside the Black Crown file. Before anyone could reach the folder, footsteps echoed above the archive. More than one person had entered the building. Seung-ho extinguished his flashlight. Voices drifted down the staircase. "Search every room. The chairman must not leave alive." Min-Jae recognized the speaker immediately. It belonged to Captain Kim Woo-jin. Park quietly pushed the red folder into Min-Jae's hands. "Take it and escape. If they find this file, 12 years of sacrifice will disappear forever." Heavy footsteps stopped outside the archive door. Heavy footsteps crashed through the archive door as Captain Kim Woo-jin led 4 armed officers into the room. Their weapons immediately locked onto Min-Jae. "Chairman, you've been difficult to find," Woo-jin said calmly. Min-Jae held the red folder behind his back. "So it was you." Woo-jin smiled. "If I were the traitor, you wouldn't still be breathing." Before anyone could react, Park Jin-tae hurled a metal lantern across the floor. It shattered, plunging the archive into darkness. Gunshots echoed through the room as sparks burst from the walls. Seung-ho grabbed Min-Jae's arm and pulled him through a narrow maintenance tunnel, hidden behind a collapsed cabinet. Park remained behind, firing at the advancing officers. "Go!" he shouted. "Protect the file." Min-Jae hesitated only a second before disappearing into the tunnel. Moments later, an explosion shook the archive. Dust filled the passage as the entrance collapsed. Sung-ho stopped breathing heavily. Park is gone. Min-Jae tightened his grip on the folder. He knew the risk. They emerged through an abandoned drainage outlet beside the harbor. Waiting nearby was a black sedan with its engine running. Inside sat an unidentified woman wearing a black suit. She looked directly at Min-Jae and said, "Get in." The woman accelerated away from the harbor before anyone could follow. Kang Min-Jae kept his pistol raised until she removed both hands from the steering wheel. "My name is Jin," she said calmly. "Chairman Do-hyun recruited me years ago as an undercover investigator inside Black Dragon." Sung-ho frowned. Convenient story. Hee-jin reached beneath her seat and handed Min-Jae an old silver dragon badge, engraved with Chairman Do-hyun's personal seal. Only former Inner Circle members possessed one. Min-Jae lowered his weapon slightly. "Why reveal yourself now?" She glanced into the rearview mirror. "Because Kim Woo-jin isn't leading this conspiracy. He's following orders." Min-Jae remained silent. "The real mastermind never wanted your throne," Hee-jin continued. "He wanted Operation Black Crown destroyed before you discovered what it exposed." Sirens suddenly echoed behind them. 3 black SUVs appeared, closing the distance rapidly. "They're gaining," Sung-ho warned. Hee-jin turned sharply into a crowded Seoul market, weaving between delivery trucks and morning traffic. One pursuing vehicle crashed into a fruit stall, but 2 continued chasing them relentlessly. Min-Jae opened the red folder. The first page contained only one sentence: "Trust nobody carrying the Silver Dragon Council seal." Min-Jae read the warning twice. Silence filled the speeding sedan. Han Sung-ho looked toward Yoon Hae-jin. The Silver Dragon Council created every chairman, including Min-Jae. Hee-jin nodded. "Exactly. Someone inside that council ordered Chairman Do-hyun's murder and has manipulated every successor since." Suddenly, her phone vibrated. She glanced once before tossing it through the window. "They've tracked us," she said. Min-Jae checked the rearview mirror. 2 SUVs remained behind them. "Take the tunnel," he ordered. Hae-jin swerved into an underground parking garage, extinguished the headlights, and stopped between concrete pillars. Engines roared overhead, then faded. "Temporary safety," Sung-ho whispered. Min-Jae opened the folder again. Hidden beneath the first page rested a photograph. It showed 5 council members standing beside Chairman Do-hyun. One face had been carefully cut away. On the back, someone had written, "Find the missing man before he finds you." Min-Jae closed the folder. "Everything begins with that photograph." Hee-jin nodded slowly. "Then we find the missing face before the council erases everyone connected to Black Crown." Outside, footsteps echoed through the garage. Flashlights swept across parked cars. Voices called Min-Jae's name. He chambered around and whispered, "Nobody leaves until we know who's hunting the entire syndicate." Flashlights sliced through the darkness as armed officers spread across the underground garage. Kang Min-Jae motioned everyone behind a concrete pillar, keeping the red folder pressed beneath his jacket. Footsteps grew louder. Voices echoed between parked cars. Captain Kim Woo-jin appeared first, scanning every aisle with disciplined patience. "Seal every exit," he ordered. "The chairman is cornered." Min-Jae whispered, "He's hurting us." Yoon Hae-jin pointed toward a maintenance corridor. "There's another way." Before they moved, an elderly janitor pushed a cleaning cart into the garage, humming quietly. Woo-jin's men ignored him completely. The janitor paused beside Min-Jae without looking up. "Chairman Do-hyun always said courage means trusting the unexpected," he murmured. Hidden beneath a mop bucket lay access cards and a master key. Then he continued walking. Sung-ho stared in disbelief. "Another ally?" Min-Jae pocketed the cards. "Another debt my predecessor left behind." They slipped through the maintenance corridor, moments before officers reached their hiding place. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the building as every security door unlocked simultaneously. Woo-jin realized someone had deliberately cleared an escape route. He looked toward the dark hallway and smiled. "Good," he said softly. "Now they'll lead us straight to the mastermind." Waiting ahead, Kang Min-Jae led Han Sung-ho and Yoon Hae-jin through the unlocked service corridor until they reached an abandoned subway platform beneath central Seoul. Dust covered the tracks, but fresh footprints proved someone had arrived recently. Hae-jin stopped beside a rusted maintenance room and unlocked it using the master key. Inside waited shelves of archived syndicate records and a large wall map marked with colored pins. Min-Jae recognized every location. They were safe houses known only to former chairmen. Sung-ho unfolded the photograph from Operation Black Crown beside the map. The missing face had been carefully removed, but faint ink remained around the torn edge. Hae-jin held the page beneath ultraviolet light. A hidden name appeared, Counselor Jang Tae-sik. Min-Jae stared silently. Tae-sik had retired years earlier after recommending Min-Jae as chairman. Suddenly, a distant train horn echoed through the tunnel. Hae-jin looked toward the entrance. Someone's coming. Heavy footsteps approached rapidly. Then an elderly voice called out, "Chairman, don't shoot. I'm alone." Min-Jae raised his pistol anyway. A well-dressed man stepped into the light carrying nothing except a sealed council ledger. He bowed respectfully and whispered, "Jang Tae-sik never retired. He became the council's invisible chairman after Do-hyun." Min-Jae accepted the council ledger without lowering his pistol. The elderly messenger introduced himself as Cho Sung-hwan, former secretary to Chairman Kang Do-hyun. Jang Tae-sik controlled the Silver Dragon Council from the shadows, he said. Every chairman since Do-hyun has been chosen to protect his empire. Cho opened the ledger. Hidden payments connected politicians, prosecutors, judges, and syndicate captains across Korea filled every page. One final entry carried today's date. Payment authorized for Operation Last Dragon. Recipient, Kim Woo-jin. Min-Jae looked at Sung-ho. He's expecting a reward. Hae-jin shook her head. Read the amount. The payment column contained 01. Beneath it, another note read, "Eliminate Captain Kim Woo-jin after completion." Silence settled over the room. Woo-jin wasn't the mastermind. He was the next disposable witness. Suddenly, automatic gunfire erupted outside the maintenance room. Bullets ripped through the metal door. Cho slammed the ledger into Min-Jae's hands. "Take it and expose them," he shouted. Hae-jin kicked open a rear escape hatch. Sung-ho returned fire, while Min-Jae crawled toward the tunnel. Explosions shook the platform as masked attackers advanced relentlessly. Min-Jae glanced back once. Cho remained standing, buying them precious seconds. Then another burst echoed. His voice faded into silence forever. The tunnel shook as Kang Min-Jae, Han Sung-ho, and Yoon Hae-jin emerged into an abandoned maintenance station beneath Seoul. Behind them, gunfire finally stopped. Cho Sung-hwan had sacrificed himself to protect the ledger. Min-Jae closed his eyes briefly before opening the final pages. Every payment, assassination, and promotion ordered by the Silver Dragon Council was carefully documented. At the bottom appeared tomorrow's schedule. Emergency Council meeting, Black Dragon headquarters. Min-Jae looked up. "They're gathering everyone in one place." Hae-jin nodded. "Because they believe you're still hiding." Sung-ho smiled for the first time. "Then we'll surprise them." Min-Jae tore several pages from the ledger and handed copies to Hae-jin. "Deliver these to the National Police's Anti-Organized Crime Unit if we fail." She accepted without argument. "And you?" Min-Jae reloaded his pistol. "I'm ending this where it began." Hours later, black sedans filled the headquarters courtyard as council members arrived one after another. Hidden across the street, Min-Jae watched through binoculars. Then another vehicle stopped at the entrance. Captain Kim Woo-jin stepped out, unaware the council had already marked him for death. Min-Jae whispered, "Tonight, every mask finally falls before everyone watching." Black Dragon headquarters stood silent as the Silver Dragon Council assembled inside the conference hall. Kang Min-Jae entered through a hidden passage known only to former chairmen, with Han Sung-ho and Yoon Hae-jin close behind. Council members froze as the man they believed hunted stepped into the light. Jang Tae-sik slowly rose from the chairman's seat and smiled. "I knew you'd come." Min-Jae tossed the council ledger onto the table. "Your game is over." Jang calmly closed the book. "Power doesn't disappear because of records." Before anyone reacted, 2 gunshots echoed through the hall. Captain Kim Woo-jin collapsed, shocked to discover the council had turned on him. His final glance met Min-Jae's. "I was only following orders," he whispered before falling silent. Panic spread among the council. Some reached for weapons while others rushed toward the exits. Hee-jin blocked the main doors as Sung-ho disarmed 2 guards. Jang quietly pulled a concealed pistol and aimed it at Min-Jae. The syndicate always needed one invisible ruler. Min-Jae never flinched. Not anymore. At that instant, police sirens surrounded headquarters. Blue lights flooded the windows. Jang realized every escape route had already been sealed by authorities outside. Black Dragon headquarters fell silent as officers from the National Police surrounded the building. Jang Tae-sik backed toward the conference window, pistol trembling for the first time. Kang Min-Jae never lowered his weapon. "It's over," he said. Jang laughed bitterly. "You think arresting me ends corruption?" He reached into his pocket and removed a small ignition switch. "If I fall, everything burns." Before he could press it, Han Sung-ho tackled him across the table. The device skidded onto the floor. Yoon Hae-jin kicked it away just as detectives burst inside. Council members surrendered one after another. Jang was handcuffed without another word. Min-Jae picked up the silver dragon ring lying beside the chairman's seat. He placed it on the table instead of wearing it. "This symbol belongs to loyalty, not fear," he said. Outside, dawn broke over Seoul as reporters and officers watched the last council vehicle depart. Hae-jin handed the ledger to investigators. Years of hidden crimes would finally reach the courts. Min-Jae looked toward his remaining captains. Today, the Black Dragon Syndicate ends as an empire. What comes next will be decided by honor, not greed or betrayal, ever again. Everyone bowed silently as hope replaced fear completely. 3 days later, sunlight bathed Seoul as investigators continued removing evidence from Black Dragon headquarters. Newspapers across Korea reported the arrest of the Silver Dragon Council and the collapse of its criminal network. Kang Min-Jae stood alone inside the empty conference hall where the conspiracy had finally ended. Han Sung-ho entered carrying the Silver Dragon ring. "The captains want you back as chairman," he said. Min-Jae looked at the symbol before gently closing Sung-ho's hand around it. A leader should never rule because people fear losing him. They must believe in something greater. Together, they walked outside, where the remaining officers waited silently. One by one, they bowed, promising to rebuild with honor instead of corruption. Yoon Hae-jin smiled, knowing Chairman Do-hyun's final wish had finally been fulfilled. Min-Jae looked across the Seoul skyline as the morning breeze carried away the last memories of betrayal. The blood-stained knife had begun a deadly game, but truth had ended it. Some battles were won with bullets. Others were won by refusing to become the monster your enemies expected. If loyalty still matters, subscribe for more unforgettable Mafia stories. And tell us below, who did you suspect first? Your answer might surprise everyone.